If you're watching this video, congratulations. You made it through 2020. So it's no secret, this year sucked, but on the bright side, we had some good movies. So today I'm talking about my top 10 favorite movies of 2020. A lot of them came from streaming because I didn't want to go to a theater. I haven't been to theaters since March, and I probably won't be going back for a while. So this is what we got. But I did find time to watch some really good movies, and I'm excited to share those with you. But first, let's get into some honorable mentions. And these are in no particular order. The Five Bloods, The Gentleman, Borat, subsequent movie film, Bad Boys for Life, Happiest Season, Sylvie's Love, Big Time Adolescence, My Hero Academia, Heroes Rising, Underwater, We Can Be Heroes, Extraction. These are all great movies, but they just didn't crack the top 10. Some of them were close, but I definitely recommend watching all of those. So let's get right into it. This is what you're here for, my top 10 favorite movies of 2020. Number 10, Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harley Quinn. Yes, I said the full title. That's how the movie was introduced. That's how it was when I watched it. That's what the DVD probably says. That's what I'm going with. This was the best time I had at the movies this year. It may seem like that's not saying much, but still, under normal circumstances, I would say this was a good time at the movies. There was some amazing action that I did not expect to see in this movie. Kathy Yon absolutely killed it with her directing. It was so colorful, it was lively, nothing like the first DCEU movies. It was so fun, great character development for Harley Quinn. Yeah, some of the characters on the side didn't get as much to do, but I really just enjoyed it. I had so much fun. Ewan McGregor was a great villain as Black Mask. I definitely will watch this one again now that I have HBO Max, and I think it's worth checking out. Number 9, The Vast of Night. This was a later entry on my list. I didn't watch it until later on in the year. It came out, I think, earlier in like March or April, but this one was a surprise for me. It was a really great sci-fi mystery sort of thing. It started off kind of slow, but the build-up is where it really got me. You're following these characters as they're trying to figure out what exactly this mysterious sound is, and you're totally invested in it. There's some great cinematography, great performances, and there's some very great storytelling here. I think it's definitely worth checking out on Amazon Prime. Number 8, Palm Springs. This was my favorite comedy of the year. Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti did amazing. They were a great dynamic duo. I'm not a huge fan of time loops, or at least when they're not done right, and this is an example of when it's done absolutely right. They really played with the genre, not just comedy, but time loops. There was an interesting sort of antagonist villain with J.K. Simmons. I really enjoyed this. It was really a deep movie too, kind of talking about life and what does it mean, like what happens when time is not of consequence? What happens when you have all the time in the world? What do you do? Do you keep just living the same day over and over again? Do you just give up? It was a really thoughtful movie, but it was also really fun, really great performances, but it's also a movie that had a lot of heart. Number 7, Run. Now, this was on my watch list for a while, and I was waiting for it to come out. They finally announced that it was going to be on Hulu, and it dropped in October, I believe. Again, time makes no sense this year, but this was a great thriller. Of course, Sarah Paulson absolutely kills it. She really does especially well playing messed up characters, but she nailed it here. Her performance as this deranged mother was really good. I really felt the tension between this mother and her daughter. The daughter I was really rooting for. Kiera Allen absolutely killed it. This was her first big feature, and I look forward to seeing her in more movies because she was amazing in this one. She went all in, especially with the physical performances here. She is someone in a wheelchair, and she's playing a character in a wheelchair, but you see her doing all these crazy stunts. Well, most of them, I'm sure stunt people were involved at some point. But to see her go all in on this performance really sold it and really made this a crazy thriller, but it was super entertaining. Number 6, His House. His House was probably the scariest movie of the year. This one was a surprise. I didn't really hear much about it until people started to talk about it, and it absolutely blew me away. Not only is it scary, but it's so visually intriguing. They really use some crazy visual effects here. The scenery changes in so many weird ways, and the scares are really good too. This is a haunted house movie that's not as conventional, and it goes in some very interesting directions, and I was really invested in this story and these characters. Great performances across the board, and I definitely think this is one you should check out. Number 5, #Alive. Now, when I hear other people talk about this movie, they just say alive, but I feel like they put the hashtag there for a reason, so I'm gonna call it #Alive. Earlier this year, I had watched Train to Busan, and then the sequel came out, but the sequel was not nearly as good as the first one. But then we have this movie, another Korean zombie movie that absolutely knocked it out of the park. even though this was actually made before everything happened in 2020, it still feels so relevant to everything that's been happening. Quarantine, lockdown, people being isolated. They absolutely did that with the characters, but they put them in this zombie infested world. So there is a level of escapism, but it also is super relatable for us because that's kind of like how we were in the beginning of the year. I really felt the solitude these characters were in. I really understood their situation because I was basically in it towards the beginning of this year. But also the zombie stuff was really cool, the action was really good, and the performances were really great. Number 4, Soul. I mentioned this in my review, but I was hesitant about this movie when I first saw the teaser because Hollywood has this trend of taking black characters in animation and not letting them stay human for the whole movie. They somehow magically or scientifically get changed into something, usually an animal, and then they're like that for most of the movie, and by the end, they somehow make it back to being human. But for most of the movie, you don't get to experience this character as they are as a black person. But this movie went in an unexpected direction. They absolutely knocked it out of the park. This was one of the blackest animated movies I've seen in a long time. They really captured the essence of this character, of the community, and there's a lot of big lessons about life, the meaning of life. This is a deep movie that both adults and children can enjoy. Adults will pick up on a lot of the messages as they're watching it, but kids probably won't notice that stuff until they grow up and watch it again. I really think this was a strong movie. It was visually stunning, great performances, and I was really invested in these characters. I definitely recommend watching this, showing it to your kids. This is a movie that I definitely think will stand the test of time. Number 3, Sound of Metal. This was one from Amazon Prime. I didn't know much about it also going into this year, but I heard some buzz about it. I finally checked it out, and wow, this movie was amazing. Riz Ahmed absolutely killed it in this role as this drummer who's losing his hearing, and he's kind of learning what it means to live in the deaf community. He starts to meet with some of them and learn sign language, and this journey is really beautiful. But another thing that really stood out to me about this movie was the sound design. You go back and forth between how Ruben is experiencing sound now and how everybody else is experiencing sound. So you get both perspectives and you feel really immersed in the situation. You really feel what Ruben is going through in this scenario. I thought it was really well done, really well acted, great character development, and also it was shot really nice. This is a beautiful looking movie. I definitely think it's worth checking out. Number 2, The Invisible Man. This movie, I didn't expect to be as good as it was. At first, I saw the trailers, I'm like, oh, this is going to be some cheap, regular thriller. It's not going to be that groundbreaking. It's just whatever. But wow, I was so surprised watching this in the theater. This was, again, one of those movies I saw in the before times. But this movie actually blew me away. Performances, insane. Elizabeth Moss absolutely killed it. But also, there's just so much creativity when it came to this situation, this character dealing with an invisible presence, and people don't believe what's happening. But they also just found so many creative ways to play with this premise, so many ways to catch you off guard. And they're also telling a really important story about abuse and what people go through. Like, there's just so many levels to this movie, and I did not expect that going into this. So it's definitely worth checking out. It's on HBO Max right now. I don't know how long it's going to be there because HBO Max seems to take off a lot of movies here and there. So catch it while you can. This is definitely one of the best of the year, in my opinion. And number 1, this was one I caught most recently, but I definitely think this is a standout of the year, and this one I think really blew me away. Number 1, Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. This movie stands out to me for a few reasons. One, Chadwick Boseman, this was his last on-screen performance, and he was amazing. This is probably his best performance he did. And that's the part that really just got me. Like, he did so well in this movie. I really felt for Levy, his journey, his perspective. I understood where he was coming from. I really felt bad for this guy because he's just trying to get his big break, but it seems like people aren't really there to help him, and he feels abandoned by the world. Like, you feel that, and Chadwick Boseman brought that character to life so well. There's also Viola Davis, who plays Ma Rainey, and she's a really powerful woman. She does not care what other people think. She wants things done her way, and if you don't want to do it that way, you can hit the highway. Like, she did not take anything from anybody, and I thought that was a really great character to see on screen, and Viola Davis absolutely disappeared into that role. And then on top of that, just the whole atmosphere of this movie was great. There was a lot of scenes taking place in small rooms, so you really get to hear these characters talk and discuss and give their perspective on things, really have discussions, sometimes arguments. But there's also the music element where you see the band performing together, trying to get this song right. There's so much going on. It's actually a really simple movie, but there's so many levels to everything. And then, of course, this movie looks beautiful from the cinematography, the set design. They really nailed this era of history, and it looks so, so beautiful. Definitely think this is one you should not miss this year. It is my favorite of the year, definitely. So that's it. Those are my top 10 favorite movies of 2020. Even though this year sucked, I think we got some pretty good movies. Now, I should have said this in the beginning, but this is all my opinion. This was all subjective. I know some movies may have been higher on your list, but that's just how it is. This is what I watch, what I like. Also, there's some movies I just didn't get to watch because they were either in theaters for a lot of time and I didn't want to go back to a theater, or they never came to VOD or streaming where I could watch it from home. So that explains why certain movies aren't on my list, because I just didn't see them. Now, there are a lot of movies I did look forward to this year that got pushed to next year, so hopefully I get to watch them either on streaming or in a theater. But until then, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for sticking with me this year. It's been a rough year. And also, that being said, I do want to make a quick announcement. This year has been rough across the board, and for me, it's been kind of tough to make these videos, but also work on my full-time job, which also includes a lot of video editing. So it's really been a lot, and I think you've probably noticed how inconsistent some of my posting has been. Like, I still manage to get a video out every week, but sometimes I cut it really close. Like Saturday night, I was still trying to make a video. Some video ideas weren't really that entertaining or that special. They were kind of just things I threw together kind of quick. But on the bright side, one of my videos hit over 10,000 views, which was absolutely crazy. But I've been thinking about it, and I've decided that I'm going to take a short break from posting videos. So starting January 1st, I'm taking a 2-week break from posting videos, and I'm just going to relax and take a break because I've been posting videos every week since May of last year. So I think it's definitely a good time to take a break. And January is kind of a slow time for movies anyway, so I don't think I'll really be missing much. By the time I come back, WandaVision should have started, so maybe I'll do a recap and review for that series when it starts. Let me know if you would like to see that. But thank you so much for everybody supporting. New subscribers, old subscribers, it doesn't matter. I appreciate your support. I hope to have some more movies to talk about next year and some more videos to make about them. Until then, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. I will see you in 2021.